Hello and welcome to Dots and Nature tutorial playlist of how to draw flowers. Here we like everything dotty, so I will be showing you how to create pointillism illustrations. There is a new flower tutorial every week, and this week is the forget-me-not. So here we've got our reference image as always important to get that ready. So here we have our reference image of the forget-me-not. So this is what we're going to be trying to recreate today. So basically I'm going to start off with the materials that I'll be using as always. So we will be using the HB pencil. We will be using the 0.5 fine liner, which is for the outline. We'll be using a 0.3 fine liner, which is for the smaller, finer outline. And then lastly, the 0.2 fine liner, which is where we'll be adding all the pointillism and more detail using the finer liner. So these are all the materials you're going to need for today's video. And like always, as I say, if you don't want to use these materials, that's totally fine. You can use your own materials, but this is still a guideful video for you to follow. First, we will be starting with the pencil. And what we're going to do, as we do always, is start with creating our guide. So looking at this image here, we're going to break it down into shapes. So we can overall kind of create a big circle, which will capture this bunch here. So I'm going to create this sort of big circle. Which gives us a guide then to kind of add the smaller circles, which will kind of separate these little flowers out. So I think I'll start with this one here, because this is quite a big one. So if I pop a circle there, then we've got a bit of a gap, and then I'd say here. Then this one here. And then I think I'll do this one here, because this one kind of is in line with this one. So this is quite a big one too, so roughly the same size as this circle. And then the one next to it. And we've got this little one here. And we've got these two top ones that obviously are not so much as a circle, so more of an oval sort of shape. So I'll do that one. Just kind of like there. And then sort of the same for the other one there. And then we do also have one hidden in the foreground, so underneath. So what we could do is just kind of make a sort of another oval sort of shape there. And we also have these little bits here too, which are the buds of the flower. So this follows on, which is to this flower here. So we could turn that into a circle as well. Just kind of have that go in there. Okay, so once you feel you've got your sort of circles and the flowers in the place that you want them, now we can work on the inner parts of these circles, so where the flowers, or the pollen sort of would be on the flower. So again, like we have with these, they're just going to be circles for now, because it's later on that we add more detail. So adding little centre circles. This will kind of help us when we draw the petals as well, having that sort of centre point to the flowers. So I'm starting with the ones that are more sort of easier to kind of draw at the moment, kind of central, because the ones like these ones are obviously they're more on the side. So again, they're not going to be so much as a circle, more sort of an oval. And then it's just this one here. There we go. And obviously this one doesn't need one because it's this. But what we can do is separate the buds out. So if we circle that bud there, that bud there, there we go. There we have that. So now that we've got our rough pencil guide down, again using the pencil still, what we're going to try and do now is to add the petals in and give them more shape. Now what you could do to make it a little bit easier is to break the petals down into circles again. So currently we just have the sort of shape of the flower itself, but what we could do is find and make little circles for how large the petals are going to be and where we think they'd be. So like this, and this way I guess it kind of gives you more of an easier guide as into drawing the petals, and now we know that by adding these circles we have got the correct amount of petals for that flower. Because sometimes if you are just doing it as an open space, so without no sort of guide, you can sort of kind of think you're following it as best as you can, but then you'll get around and then you might get to say maybe only including 4 of the petals rather than it being 5. So with having this guide, it kind of helps us to make sure that we get the right amount of petals on the flower, and we're trying to reference our image and get as accurate as we can. So I'm going to do the same as I have here with these circles and the petals and fill out the rest of them. I'll speed this bit up because obviously this will give you a chance to fill in the circles yourself as well, and I will tune back in when we've got our guide complete. So there we have all the smaller circles filled in, so the guides for the petals themselves. So now it's kind of looking a bit like they're taking more of a form of what a flower would look like, and it's still a bit scribbly and messy. So what we've got now that we've got our actual guide down, now it's to work on the actual shaping of the petals and working in the sort of like finer line details as well. So again, still using the pencil, what we're going to be doing now is using our reference image here, is trying to work out the shapes of these petals. So I'm going to start with this flower in the corner here, so this one. And I'm going to start with this petal here. And again, like most flowers, like you can kind of tell the sort of petal shapes of the flower, but not every single petal is going to look the exact same. So there's no kind of right way that I can show you guys into being like, oh, well, this is what a forget-me-not petal looks like. Because as you can see here, you've got some that are rounded, you've got some that's got little grooves in, some that are more pointed, so they all kind of look a little different. So that's why I always suggest that it is better to have a reference image to follow, like we have here, because then it just makes it kind of easier to kind of create and depict the flowers more accurately, because there's not kind of one way of drawing these flowers. And so that's that one shaped up. This one got a little point there. So there we go. You can see now what I've done is I've kind of shaped the petals a bit more to what they're meant to look like. And again, obviously still using the pencil, but I've kind of put a little bit more pressure on it just for the lines to be a bit more prominent than what our rough guide is, because I was kind of being light-handed doing the guide, because obviously we will be rubbing that away later. And now I'm being a bit more sort of heavy-handed to kind of make a bolder outline so that that stands out against our guide. So I'm going to do the same for the rest of the flowers, so the petals. I'll speed this bit up for you so it gives you time to either pause the video or to fill in this part yourselves. The reference image will still be on the screen as well for you to follow, so that you can take your time and obviously look at this image too and do the same as what I'm doing here. Have all our outline of the petals down, so now they have got more of a form. They're looking more like the forget-me-not flowers that we're trying to recreate here. So as you can see, I've kind of shaped them. I haven't started on the inner part yet, but what you can do is, if you can look at them, I'm not sure if you can see too well on here, but these are kind of like little bunches together, kind of like little circles. So what we can do is again just sort of bunch them into circles, and the inner part is dark as well, so we can kind of leave that as so. So doing that for all of these. quickly just going to add this little branch here. So under this flower, it comes out like so. Thinner part there. We'll sort of cut it off there. I can kind of see this sort of branch, but I'm not sure it's connected to this plant. So I'm going to leave it just as that little bit there. So now we have finished using the pencil. We no longer need that now. So what we're going to be using next is the 0.5 fine liner. So where we've just added the outlines for the petals and the pencils are going harder, this makes it a little bit more easier for us to see now, and using the fine liner to add the outline. So this way we're just going to tidy up the lines and make it a little bit more prominent. And again, this is the stage now where you can use your medium or whatever materials you like. But if you're following this video step by step for how I do it and how you want to learn to use fine liners and pointillism, this is the next step that we're going to do. So I'm going to start off with this flower here, and I will show you guys how to do the outline. So it's pretty much doing the kind of previous step that we just did, so getting the outline of the petals, but instead now we're using a fine liner. So we've now made it a lot easier for us to do the pen stage and hopefully not make any mistakes because we've already got our guide to follow. So it's basically just following the lines and creating a more prominent outline. There we go, so just like that. So what I'm going to do is, like always, I'm going to speed this part up because it's basically, like I've just said, doing the same part that we have done, but just adding all the outline. So rather than it be a very, very lengthy video to watch, I'll speed this bit up. You guys can pause this part if you like to fill in the lines yourselves, and then I shall tune back in when we're ready to move on to the next step. So I've just finished adding all the fine liner outline. So now we can actually see our flowers coming to life a little bit more, so it's standing out from the page and not just looking like a rough scribbly guide anymore. What I've also noticed as well with these flowers, you can see these sort of white areas as well. So I haven't forgotten about them. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that more prominent when I add the pointillism part in. So that will be the next step. So when we work with pointillism, we're working with the light and dark. So the more dots in an area will create a darker area, so the shaded area, and the less dots will create a lighter area. So what for these I might do, because it is pure white, is put no dots at all and then kind of leave it as an empty sort of space so we can tell that's that sort of pattern on the petal. And so before we do jump into the pointillism part, what I'm going to do quickly is rub away our guide, so rub away all the pencil that we have so that we're literally just left with our fine liner outline. I'll fast forward this bit because this is just the boring rubbing out, and then we can get on with the pointillism. So all our pencil guide has now gone, and all we're left with is our outline. So it's looking a little more better now as to what we have as the reference image here. So what I will do is I will show you how to do the pointillism part. So I'm going to work on one of the little flowers in real time just to show you how to do the pointillism part, and then I'll speed up the rest. I think I'll start with this one because this has got a good mixture of sort of dark areas as well as light areas. So this way I think it's best that I can show you both, so how to create both areas. So we'll start with this petal here, and as you can see here, it's a little darker compared to here. It's a little darker there too. So I'm going to start with the darker area first. Like that. And then we've got a little bit by here too. There we go. So you can see this area is darker, a little dark here. And this part that I've created here, I'm going to add no dots at all because this is the white area that I was talking about a minute ago. So that is going to stay white. Okay, and now what I can do is just fill in the rest. So it's not so much as a dark petal, so I'm just going to be very sort of spacious and sort of scatter the dots about. So sort of like this, so that we know it's not completely white, but it is a light area compared to this area here, so they can kind of obviously stand out against each other then. So this being the completely white area, this being a light area, and then this being a dark area. So now you can distinguish and see on the petals where there are sort of lighter and darker areas to the petal. So I'll do the same with this one. There's a little bit dark here. So close compacting those dots. Leaving this area here white completely. And I'm gonna say it's a little dark under here because this petal overflaps. It's a little dark at the tip of the petal, like that. And then again, just scattering the dots about the petal. Like so. I'm going to leave this bit white there too because it's this sort of curve and this part of the white. So you can see from my example what I'm trying to gather here is just capturing the darker and the light areas. So it will be a case of you will be looking back and forth to your reference image a lot, just to make sure that you're capturing the details as accurately as you can. And like I've mentioned with the dots as well, the closer you put them together, obviously the more darker of an area you're creating. But you can still kind of put them close but not too close to still kind of create a dark area but not so dense area. I will speed up the rest of this video now to let you guys have a go of doing the pointillism yourselves. I do always say at this point, it's not going to look exactly the same as what I'm doing because we're scattering and adding dots. Obviously, it can vary and change every single time we do this. Even if myself, I was to recreate this again, it would probably look different in terms of the scattering of the dots. So there's no right or wrong with this sort of process. So I will zoom out on the reference image so you get to see the clear full image so you can look at this while you're doing it yourselves. So this is the finished look of the forget-me-not illustration. So I've now added all the pointillism in, which is the last step of this tutorial video. We've now added sort of depth and shading, but not necessarily using any colour. So again, still just using the fine liner pens. This is the end of the video. Now it's entirely up to you what you want to do with your final illustration. Now you could obviously add colour in whatever sort of medium you like. It doesn't necessarily have to be like this, but this is how I finish my illustrations. So as always at the end of the video, I like to just zoom in a little just so you guys can really see all the pointillism and the dots that have been added to the illustration. So this is the little bunch of the forget-me-nots. And if you wanted to, obviously you could kind of try and recreate it from the way I've done my pointillism, but that's entirely up to you. I think it's also nice for you guys to practice being able to do it yourselves as well. So just referencing an image literally the exact same way that I have done here today. Thank you guys for watching the video, and I hope you found this a very helpful and guideful video into drawing the forget-me-not. And I hope you're happy with your outcome of your own illustration and you've had fun doing the process as well. If you do want to follow more, subscribe to the channel, click on the notification bell as you will be reminded with a new video every Thursday. So I like to keep it a surprise, so I'm not going to say what flower will be next week, but there definitely will be a different flower every week. So again, thank you guys for watching, and I shall see you in the next one. Bye for now.